What rules were created just because of you? Not me, but the Intro to Engineering class at UCF has a competition where groups must create a self-powered boat to race an orange around the circumference of the reflection pond. The pond is maybe 100 feet in diameter. One year one group used a lawnmower engine to power their boat, and the same year a group used bottle rockets. Upon starting the race, the lawnmower group's boat tipped over in the middle and poured gasoline into the pond. At the same time the other group lit their bottle rockets, which promptly ignited the spilled gasoline and set the pond on fire. They created a new rule after that year: no gasoline powered boats. At some summer thing Texas A&M did to try and attract students. I didn't end up going there. There was little mini engineering contest where you had to construct a 4-wheeled vehicle that would go the farthest, using an assortment of MacGyver-ish materials, including a balloon, some tape, a mousetrap, paper clips, tacks, things like that, and like 4 Lego wheels and 2 axles. My group argued for a while, and honestly, we wouldn't have had anywhere near the best contraption if not for my last minute inspiration of rule loophole exploitation, which apparently I'm better at than actual engineering. No one said all 4 wheels couldn't be on the same axle, and there was no strict definition of vehicle. 4 Lego wheels on 1 axle, flung by the mousetrap, 25 feet, beat second place by almost double, I think. Our team won TI-89s, each. That's not ruler breaking, that's just dang good engineering. My sister got a pair of toy earrings at the doctor's office, and promptly stuck them up her nose so deep that they were lost forever. After that, the doctor's office only gave out stickers. When I was in middle school, the dress code stated that every boy must wear a shirt with a collar. I decided to buy a really cheap collar shirt and cut the collar off and then wear t-shirts to school with it clipped on. Soon the school made one-piece collar shirts mandatory. In high school, the student council was sponsoring a food drive to boost donations. Some teachers offered extra credit for every item a student brought in. Being the smart butt I am, I decided to buy $40 worth of ramen noodles at $0.12 a piece. That's about 300 packages. I did minimal work for the rest of the semester and ended up with a 125% in the class. The principal was not pleased and banned extra credit forever. That's why, at my high school, any teacher who offered extra credit like that had a cap. You could bring in as many tissue boxes, canned items etc as you wanted, but you'd only get up to 10 extra credit points. My friends and I played a round of poker and lunch in high school. Naturally we didn't have much cash, so we started betting things like the future virginity of the hot chicks and 1/2 of our soul. Fast forward to the guy who won 1/2 of the soul. He decided to put it on eBay. 2 days later CNN did a piece on eBay selling intangible goods and they featured our 0.5 soul in the promo. The next day eBay announced that souls were no longer acceptable items. I was 14 at the time, 25 now. Back then I pirated movies via Hotline. I decided to set up my own server. Access was not entirely free however. You had to go to my mock website, click on a banner for an adult revenue service, sign up, and on the final sign up page, look for these 2 words, which are the login and password. Each time someone did this, I got $20. I got a check from the company for about $400 before they caught on and removed my account. After that they changed their terms so that a person had to be an active member for a month before they gave the referral the $20. My mom was very confused when I got a $400 check with dozens of websites all over the envelope. After I explained, she thought it was amazing and hilarious and we cashed the check. Cool mom. A retail store I worked for changed the call-in sick policy because I cut my foot and they made me come to work. The stitches split, and I left a blood trail wherever I went for a solid 5 minutes. Now, stitches are an acceptable reason not to come to work. When I was 7-9 years old my friend and I did nothing but play outside all day and build all sorts of wooden forts and tree houses. We got pretty handy with our tools and our projects got bigger and bigger. One day we found 4 good-sized trees about 6 feet apart from each other in a rough square just a stone's throw from the neighborhood park. We decided to build the mother of all forts by making a platform in the middle of those trees about 6 feet off the ground. It had 2 feet. walls around the sides and a sturdy ladder and eventually a second level above the first. This was a fairly small neighborhood and everyone knew everyone else, so all the grown-ups with kids came to check it out, and after a few modifications it was deemed safe enough, and for a few weeks all the neighborhood kids would play in and around it. We felt like kings. Then one day we came home from school and it was absolutely destroyed. Apparently the county somehow got wind of it and its proximity to the playground and sent some guys out with chainsaws to demolish it. We were heartbroken. They told our parents that from then on we weren't allowed to build anything anymore because the county could maybe be held liable in case someone got hurt. We gathered up our scraps, said frick the police, and moved further into the woods and out of sight and built an even better one and several backups just in case. In hindsight, I'm 30 now. I can understand why it needed to be done, but all those years ago it seemed like the greatest tragedy ever. TLDR. Built a tree fort so awesome that all the kids used it. County workers chainsawed it to the ground. I've always wanted to build a tree house, but living in India makes it rather hard to do since none knows what a tree house is. In my high school we had a German language competition that was hosted at different hotels over the years. One of them had balconies for every room, and my friends and I discovered the wonder of hopping between them in order to get to someone's room. Because, you know, opening the door and walking was very difficult for us rowdy teenagers. Well, some of my friends decided to remove all the smaller furniture in one room thinking it was one of ours. It wasn't. Those people were not happy. Needless to say, the hotel ended up posting a bunch of signs, and the security waivers you have to sign for the competition added no jumping between balconies every year after. We were stupid kids. I used to ride a unicycle around my school's gym all the time because while they specifically banned skateboards, bikes, roller skates, and even those heelys things, they never mentioned unicycles. They had to go through the whole official rule changing process to add unicycles to the rule book. I don't consider it to be my fault, but I actually got D&D banned at my school after some less than intelligent person saw one of our lunchtime games in the library and complained about Satanism. I had to go through 3 weeks of counselor sessions just because I made my voice deep and booming when I DM'd. My freshman year in college I lived in a dorm with a large courtyard in the center. We collectively had a large water balloon fight. One of the girls slipped and cut her arm open pretty deep and we had to call 911. The new rule my dorm made was no water balloon fights indoors. Not me, but my high school required that all valedictorians give a copy of their speech to the school board for approval. My class wrote a satirical one about how American prisons were a better option than going in debt for college and getting a job. School board hated it and told him to write a traditional one. He writes the cheesiest, most stereotypical speech he could think of. He was also an ESL student and his parents spoke an Arabic language. Don't remember specifically which one. At home, he gets up at graduation and reads the entire speech 3 times in Arabic. Now my brother tells me they say all speeches must be approved in the language they will be spoken in. I go to a private school with a dress code, and because of me, chainmail is no longer an acceptable form of undershirt. I love you. At my old high school, now in uni, math class tests now start with the disclaimer all answers must be written in Arabic numerals. But they didn't say you have to give them in base 10. Time to answer in pencil. My story is not one of badassery but rather an example of thinking outside the box. In my high school physics class, we had fun doing the physics Olympics after AP tests were done and our lesson plan was complete. One of the events was seeing how many paper clips you could remove from a bin using 2 AA batteries, copper wire, 2 nails, and tape. The logic was to make an electromagnet, but after reading the rules and talking with the teacher, nowhere did it explicitly say that you had to make an electromagnet. I proceeded to make a shovel using the batteries as the handle, the nails as supports for the wire and tape bucket, and reinforced it all with tape. My group got the all-time record for that event with around 1150 paper clips picked up in 30 seconds. We picked up over 900 more than the closest competitor. Needless to say, the rules explicitly state to make an electromagnet now, but no one will touch my group's record. I play the tuba. I'm Mexican. And back in high school, my mostly Caucasian school was playing the mostly ethnic school on the other side of town. from where I resided. I was bused to the rich school on the better side of town. I and my other Mexican friend who played the trumpet decided it would be a good idea to play the Mexican hat dance. Needless to say, we had many letters and parents to respond to. Rules have been changed on our district games on what's acceptable sportsmanship and pep band songs to be played. Not so much a rule, but my senior year of high school, I had completed the minimum requirements to graduate, but we were only allowed to have one free period. Instead of taking a class I didn't want to, I created my own Bulls child development class, where I volunteered at the preschool next door 3 days a week, and had the other 2 off. 7 years later, the class still exists, but has a legit curriculum associated with it now. I'm sure I am not the only reason, but when I was about 7 or so I was in the Miami airport, and back then the emergency stop button for escalators was at the bottom right by the entrance. I was young, saw the button and couldn't resist the urge to kick it while it was very packed. Well, it was full of senior citizens that kept telling each other to stand still because it could come back on at any second. That was that for about 15 minutes, blocking the only entrance to the airport. Next year all the buttons had a plastic cover. When I was in elementary school, I got a bunch of kids to wear shorts in the winter with me. I live in Canada. Most of us got mild frostbite on our legs. Now no one can wear shorts in the winter. First year of uni, my friend bought a sofa and armchair from eBay. $4.99 Incal delivery. Best purchase ever. He managed to fit both of them in his tiny room. Once the university found out, they didn't like it, so they told him to get rid of them. He said no. He managed to keep them till the end of the year. He put them in storage, and the following September he brought them to his new, even smaller room. Only the sofa fit, so I got the armchair. Again, the university didn't like it. They sent us both very official letters giving us 30 days to remove the furniture. We printed off the entire residency agreement and read it page by page, every word, to see if there was anything forbidding us from having them. There wasn't. They had their fire tags. They didn't block any exits. The only possible problem was if it interfered with the cleaner's job. We asked her. She was fine with it. Our rooms were the last on the rota, so she'd sometimes sit and talk with us after she was finished. Anyway, so after 30 days we got another letter saying that they knew we still had the furniture, and we would be fined. We printed off all the documentation we needed, suited up, and went to the office to argue our case. After several months they managed to convince the cleaner to say the furniture interfered, so we actually had to get rid of them. Our friend took them to his house. The following year we weren't in university halls anymore, but we checked the residency documentation on their website, where we noticed the guidelines for furniture were now much more specific about what you could and couldn't have in your room. 4 years later, he still has those sofas. I don't know for certain, but I feel pretty confident that I had the flow of traffic at a certain intersection in town changed. There was a very wide shoulder on the road that I used as a right turning lane, only to be immediately pulled over by a policeman for passing about 5 cars on the shoulder while they waited for the traffic signal. I counted the idea to him that the shoulder there actually was a lane. There was a dividing line and it was nicely paved. No reason for us not to use this space for making right turns, although no one used it. I really was passing traffic on the shoulder but being very cautious. About 3 months later, the intersection is repainted with the shoulder as a right turn only lane. It felt great, seeing as it does help the traffic flow better at that crowded intersection. TLDR. I challenged a policeman after getting pulled over. The town changed the intersection to agree with my driving habits. If you must bite the plaster in the art room, please at least have a justified reason for doing so. In case you're wondering, it tasted delicious. Sounds like a justified reason if I ever heard one. When I was in high school, my school adopted a uniform policy my senior year that required us all to wear one of 3 colored polos and a pair of khaki pants shorts. In the winter time it would get quite cold in the school, and the only long sleeve fleece we could wear was $80 and was a piece of crap that didn't even come close to keeping you warm. I refused to buy one and had the brilliant idea I was going to bring a blanket to school. I looked through the entire school policy handbook and couldn't find anything telling me I couldn't do it, so for the entire winter I would just wrap myself in a blanket while in class. I then graduated that year and went back to visit for Christmas break, where I was told that because of me they had added blankets to the unacceptable attire portion of the school handbook. TLDR. I made blankets unacceptable attire at my high school. My German teacher banned us from say the mayonnaise in German because every question she would ask us, that's what we would reply with. In German class, every answer, regardless of question freshman year, ich spiel Gitter. My friends and I used to move all the trash cans at school into a line and jump them at break. Eventually, a kid tried to jump 6 and fell and tore the skin off of most of his face. We didn't have breaks after that. School's ways of fixing things always confuses me. Oh, this kid hurt himself doing this at break. Let's not try to prevent it by say locking the garbage cans to poles, fences, or adding supervision. Let's just get rid of break and make them sit in a class so they can possibly hurt themselves. Dang schools. Introduction to Mechanical Engineering. My freshman year of college had a single term project. Construct a mousetrap car that can navigate a rather impressively complex obstacle course, hitting multiple non-linear gates in order. Points awarded relative to whoever hit the most gates, which was usually less than half, apparently. So I decided to be a cheeky sucker and wired an Arduino small computer up to our car that would allow me to program a set of steering directions in. Our group hit every single gate. No more electronics allowed on the mousetrap car project. Bonus points for out-nerding a nerd competition. Sophomore year in high school, I pocketed one of the keys to our high school that I found on a counter in the main office. The school only had like 3 different kinds of locks, and the one key I still happened to unlock the exterior doors and most of the classroom doors as well. I didn't use it for much, just unlocked a few shortcuts here and there. Nothing crazy. It was fun to have though. But then senior year came and we started talking about what to do for a senior prank. I got involved and told people what I had and how much power it gave us. I soon co-led a group of about 50 students in planning this large-scale epic prank that we did the night after graduation. We went in the school at 2 AM and just caused mass chaos. We didn't break or steal anything. It just caused madness everywhere, like moving every trash can into one room, putting alarm clocks in the ceiling panels of all the classrooms and had them all set for the same time the next day, moving a teacher's desks to another room down the hall and putting someone else's desk in its place, etc. etc. Anyway, the prank was quite successful and school the next day was total chaos for the first 4 hours of the day. The administration was not happy and realized the students had a key. Bricks were shat. They ended up replacing every single lock in the school, changed external doors to use electronic locks with key cards, installed alarm systems, and put cameras in all the main hallways. The cost was astronomical, something like $100,000 in security renovations. Since this was outside the regular budget, they had to put in a referendum for public vote to authorize spending $100,000 in emergency funding for the added security. The measure passed that summer. TLDR. I stole a single key when I was 14, and it caused $100,000 in renovations and caused the town to have a referendum on the ballot. So you guys ever heard of McDonald's Make It Bacon promotion, where you could add bacon to anything for $1? Yeah, it didn't last long. My friend walked up and ordered the Big Mac meal with bacon. He clarified to the confused employee he wanted his burger with bacon, he wanted his fries to come with bacon, and yes, he wanted his Coke to come with bacon. Perplexed, the poor burger flipper complied, and soon his bacon-adorned meal arrived. The employees watched as he ate quickly, but this was not enough. He went back up and ordered an ice cream with bacon. They balked, and the frontline workers retreated to confer with the manager. She arrived not long after to inform my friend that they would not, in fact, give him bacon on his ice cream, but would be able to give him ice cream and bacon. He agreed. Soon enough, a tray slid across the counter, a piece of bacon, an ice cream. He took them both up, placed the bacon on the ice cream, looked the manager in the eye and took a big bite. The next day all of the banners were gone, and the promotion ended. TLDR. Bacon and ice cream disgust employees. At HMMT, it says no calculators, slide rules, abacus, or other computational aids. I'd love to meet the guy who brought in an abacus. Technically a piece of paper to write your work in is a computational aid, otherwise you'd have to do all the computation in your head. The teachers and administrators at my first high school were semi-illiterate. They would post signs for various things, clubs, events, reminders, etc. in the hallways, but these signs were usually filled with numerous glaring grammatical errors. So my friends and I took Sharpies to all of them and corrected the errors. Basically, we acted like Redditors do. After doing this for about a week, the administration made a big fuss and announced to everyone to stop defacing the signs. When I was in 3rd grade, my class had a rule that everyone had to put their chairs on top of their desks at the end of the day to make the janitor's life a little easier. If you didn't put your chair on top of your desk and another student, who stayed after class to do this, did it for you, then you owed them like 5 kid bucks, a currency that was exclusive to the class. You earned them by reading books, doing your homework, answering questions during discussion, act. Unfortunately for everyone else, a group of friends and I lived within walking distance of the school, meaning we had time to hang out while all the bus kids had to rush so they didn't miss their ride home. We had a lucrative business of just hanging out after class, putting people's chairs on their desks, and collecting the next day. We had a 5-ish minutes window where we had to sit and wait to make sure no one would come back to put their chair up. Being the 3rd grader I'm 20 now, I thought the words boob, boobies, jugs, melons, act were hilarious. My friends and I had this genius idea to go to a computer and type in boobs.com and see what would pop up. We were pleasantly surprised as large-breasted women appeared. We tried giantmelons.com, hugeaboobs.com, act. This went on for a couple weeks. Everyone would leave. We would go type in boobs.com, giggle for a few minutes, then put up the chairs and leave. One day the teacher called us out to the hallway to talk. She begins with, "Do you all know what pornography is?" As a 3rd grader who was decently sheltered at home, I had no idea. One of my friends, on the other hand, starts to giggle and say yes. The teacher explains that it is bad and someone has been searching for pornography on the school computers. We didn't know how to clear the history yet and incognito windows didn't exist for our use, especially with Netscape. Later in the day she announces to the class that the chair rule is now gone and she'd do it herself. I thought that was the end of it, but sadly when we tried to go to boobs.com on a school computer later that week, we were met with a page saying this is against school policy. No more boobs.com. We figured ways around it, but soon all the P was blocked. TLDR. My 3rd grade self destroyed an elementary school mini economy while also getting P blocked from all school computers district-wide. Upvote for crashing the economy. Back in high school history class we had a major assignment that required 10 plus sources, with only one website allowed. No Wikipedia. To combat this I created my own website with all relevant information on it and cited it as a source. They couldn't really say anything about it and I aced it. A few years later my younger sister was in the same class. The assignment now had on the bottom, "You may not create your own website for this project." My group of friends used to take out the inside of Bic pens and then shoot airsoft pellets at each other. The trick caught on and pretty soon an email went around to all the parents and faculty banning them. One of my proudest moments. This was an epidemic at my middle school. People in the locker room would just go crazy on other people's backs the second they took off their shirt. But since nobody was gonna be that guy and tell a teacher, it went on for months until they started finding the leftover pellets all over the place. I used to work for a property management company. I just answered the phones, did secretarial bitch work, that sort of thing. The first couple weeks I worked there, I was told off for popping my head into offices when I got a call for someone and they were still on the line. Now, keep in mind I know how to interrupt people on phone calls, and the job I worked at before required I do this. Because sometimes important people would call and the person they were calling for would finish their current call quickly and then switch over. I had a good system. Dang it. Hold up a piece of paper with the person's name on it and wait for a mouthed "I'll get it" or a head shake. In which case I'd pick the call back up and take a message. My boss wrote a memo that said people weren't to be interrupted when on phone calls. We all, 5-person office, had to sign it. Of course everyone knew it was me. I was also the youngest person there. We, though everyone knew it was just for me, were instructed to take messages and stick them on the person's desk door whatever. The next week, I was doing this and nothing bad was happening. Until an owner of one of our properties called and asked for the big bossman who happened to be on a call. In my defense, I didn't know it was an owner, because it was a lady complaining about the temperature of the pool at one of the properties. Sounded like a bull's complaint from a resident, and this was actually the owner's wife. I didn't recognize her first name. If she'd told me her last name, I would have been fine. I took a message, stuck it on the big boss's desk and went about my business. He blew the frick up at me because he didn't see the message for like half an hour. And the next day, there was another memo we all had to sign about how every call from an owner would be answered by someone who knows what they're doing. Basically, one of the people who handles the important stuff, i.e., not me, within 30 seconds, or you'd be immediately terminated. No crap. Things were fine after that and I worked there another 4 months without real incident until I was legitimately laid off because there was literally no work for me. I think your original method was great, and what happened after is a great example of why it shouldn't have changed. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.